There we go. And that's under. All right. Peace. This is the Ash Your Old Head podcast with Justice Rajee. I'm here with my guest, Erious Johnson. Peace, Erious.
Peace.
How we doing today, man?
I'm chilling. I'm good. Finally got the wife out the house.
I feel you. You know what I'm saying? First of all, let me say thank you for having me here at your home, man, and sitting down. So we always start with giving a moment for you to give reverence or props to somebody that you want to give some props and reference to. So.
Yeah, my wife keeps me on my toes. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be in Oregon.
Word up. I feel you. Well, probably in some way, neither do I. Not like your wife, my wife. You know.
Yeah. No, dig it. You know what I mean?
There's a funny story to that, too. It reminds me when I get my friends pop on here. But that's another story. So, all right, let's get into it. So, first question I always start with is, can you give me a value or a principle or standard that you try to live by that you think is really important to who you are?
I just actually came across it from a book. And it's basically, you can blame whoever you want for whatever you want. You can put fault on somebody else. You know, that is definitely your right. You know, it can be therapy. But by the same token, you still have to take responsibility. I'm trying to learn. You can blame, but you still have to take responsibility. So that's one of the things I've been trying to do. Trying to just stop worrying about where I'm at and just what can I do to make it better. So I'm trying to just do that.
Hey, so you said there was a book or a place that you came to that. Is there like a story or something more elaborate you could give on sort of how that?
You know, it's a synchronicity. You know, I walked away from my job. So one of the things I've been doing in my spare time is trying to write my memoirs. And I got this book, Writing Your Memoirs in 30 Days. And what it does is it kind of gives you, every day gives you an exercise. And the idea is after 30 days, you will have at least something to give to an editor or the starts of something. And the chapter I got to was, it was in two parts. And the first part of the chapter said, write a list of hopes you had as a child. And the second part of it was now take one of them and write about either how you achieved it, how you didn't achieve it, or how you're working towards it. And one of my hopes when I was a kid was I always hoped my family would get back together. Because one of the most pivotal points, you know, because as you're doing these exercises, you know, it starts, you know, put a pin in that. Going through this book is written by a psychologist. And what it does is you have to dig into your memories to get you to pull out what they want you. You know, an example of another exercise is, you know, write a list of words that describe you. And then take one of those words and tell a story around why you chose that word. So it actually makes you pull up these moments in your life. And like one of the things I'm realizing is I had like 3 major things happen in my life. Like when my parents got divorced, when I went into a religious community, and when I went into law school. Those are like the 3 points in my life where it was like, whoa, 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 you know? But so, you know, my parents broke up. And so I'm telling this story. I'm like, okay, I'm going to write about how, you know, they never got back together. So when I was a kid, we used to go down to my grandmother's house and have holidays. And then she had this dining room. And the dining room was always the first place we went because that was like where the candy was, where the little letters. It was always the special place. When we had dinner, it was always in this dining room. So this room always meant family to me, you know. And then, you know, my parents broke up. And one summer, I was down there with my grandparents. And it was my grandparents, my mother, my grandfather. My sisters were living as well because my grandmother had taken my sisters, or my mother had given my sisters to my grandmother to take care of. And we had just finished praying because my grandparents are like really devout Christians. And it was the evening, and we have an evening prayer. And then my grandfather's sitting at the front of the table, and he starts talking about how, you know, I wish Raph and Lily would get back together, and I hate to see you children suffering like that. And he just broke down crying out of nowhere. Yeah, I mean, it was like, you know, my grandfather was like, I've seen my grandfather dig a fishing hook, you know, like out of his head without flinching. So to see him do that, and it was just like, you know, at that moment, it was like, man, just, my parents' divorce wasn't just my household. It was like, man, this thing just destroyed my entire family. At that moment, because so that room in my grandmother's house that was so safe, that always made me think of holiday. Now, every time I go in that room, all I see is like my grandfather crying. So, and on top of that, I'm reading this other book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And one of the chapters are this blame and responsibility. So, it made me kind of sit down. I was like, man, I got to stop. I can keep blaming my mother and my father for their divorcing and destroying my family, but I need to take responsibility on, like, okay, now you know what the problem is. You miss your family. Once my family detonated, I took this really kind of turn where I was just like, whatever. Nothing good lasts forever. Everything dissolves. So it kind of just made me a cynical kid. I didn't really work as hard as I could, and I moved a lot of places. I went to a lot of different jobs. I just didn't really believe in anything. So, and I blamed it on my parents breaking up. I was like, no, I'm married now. I'm in a new place. I need to build something here. And that's what made me, side note, do all these home improvements I'm doing. I'm like, no, this is... okay, I need to try to build what I believe my family took. So I'm trying to make home. So, man, it was their fault they took it, but it's my responsibility to actually build it for myself. So, yeah, I've been trying to get that. And that's really been helping me over the last few months, especially transitioning after work and just, dealing with this place, trying to really decide, okay, it's on me. I'm here because of me. Every decision I make is because I wanted to make it. So,
A couple of things there. One would be, I would say like my grandmother and her sisters, like their home that they lived in North Jersey. In their dining room, there was a thing with candy in it too. I don't know if this was a cultural thing for people of a certain age, but me and you are a similar age, so we would have had, grand age folks. You know what I'm saying? I'm wondering, like, is that a thing, a concept, but sort of that idea of like, this was a commonplace. So I remember, like, when I would go up to North Jersey to see her when I was little, it was like, oh, we're gonna run. We would like run.
There's always a candy
joint. There was some candy in there.
Yeah, exactly.
There was like a little
Fruit.
thing with some coloring books. It was like, yo, it's about to be on. You know what I mean? So that's kind of, I always kind of pick up those behavioral things that, like, places that are, and oddly enough, well, at least my grandmother, lived in Virginia for a long time, like in Richmond and Hampton.
My grandmother was in Farmville. Which is 60 miles west of Richmond. Because, like, at Christmas, the family stuff went under the tree. Your gifts from Santa Claus were in the dining room. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. The stuff from the Easter Bunny was in the dining room.
So that's, man, so I have to flesh that out. And then the other piece that you brought up was, like, the dynamics of how you perceive a situation when you're young, right? And then how that impacts who you start to be. And when you see, like your elders or someone like have that, like that moment of like this person I didn't think felt pain almost. It's like, what do you do with that information? It can be really challenging. So thank you for sharing that. I think that,
it was like, I mean, his face contorted like he suffered pain. Like it was like, it really shook me. Yeah. Like,
because I know the thing I always think about is what were the expectations that, like, my grandfather had for his kids, right? And then how did that filter down through my mom to me? You know what I mean? And on my dad's side, when my dad died when I was 5, his father died like 2 years before he passed. What were that side of the family, like, what was their expectation? And then, like, if things went other ways, so you're like, damn, why they all grumpy at the Christmas dinner? And you're like, maybe they grumpy because they just, like, it's too much to explain to you. Go in there, eat your plate, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, word up. So that's peace, man. So you speaking,
but also by the same token, I'm learning, like, pull them aside individually. Make that effort to find out what it was. Even family history, that's still the feuds and the battles.
Oh, yeah. No, I've learned a lot more about. I think, and especially, I guess, as I'm at the age now where my mom is like, you full grown up. So let me tell you all this other stuff you didn't know.
The backstory,
because she'd be like, I'm like, yeah, my mom. this family member, like I guess maybe I'll be a little too high in the atmosphere about how cool they were, and they'd be like, well,
just to cut them down.
Just to let you know,
you think she's so special?
What's happening with that other detail? You be like, oh, word up. But I don't want to lose something else that you brought up with the sort of finding your place in the circumstances that are going on around you, because I think that's a really challenging thing for men, given our society's sort of messaging to men where you do whatever the hell you want to do, and if it ain't working out, it's probably not you, it's everybody else. But I think something that I've had to learn to wrestle with as well is the acknowledgement that something occurred. It may or may not have been unfair. Either way, you are still the
left
driver.
Left holding it. Exactly.
With like a half-cooked chicken, like
Exactly.
you're going to figure it out. Is there anything? Is there a piece of advice you would give to somebody who found themselves maybe in that state that maybe haven't attached to that idea yet? Is there something you would want to say to them that you feel like we could capture?
I don't know. I really, excuse me. It's easy for me after all these years, after all my iterations, flowing through. Because like now I'm married, because it's a philosophy born of circumstance almost. Mm-hmm. It is. I don't believe everyone says, oh, everything happens for a reason. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I know. I'm like, sometimes you got to find reasons for the things that happen. Mm-hmm. So, stuff is happening to me. And, I never want to say, people always, don't blame the victim, when the victim's like, man, it's kind of my fault. It is. Every circumstance I find myself in, I've made the decisions that put me there. So, it is. It's hard to, sometimes you got to experience. And I think it's through failure. Mm-hmm. It's through pain and anguish you'll see blaming somebody. It's going to get you absolutely nothing. It takes a little while before you realize, don't nobody care. Nobody really cares,
Indeed, it's like, it's like, what is it? you be home mad at your mans you grew up with. If you would have just let me borrow your bike that day, my whole life would have been different.
Exactly.
I told you I need to go over there. You know what I'm saying? It's like, nah, you still got to drive this thing. Work out.
So it's, so you gotta, you gotta learn it, man. You gotta learn it, because we come from such a victim-centric society. Mm-hmm. It's always, we never give the second part of the equation. Yes, the 12 steps, and yes, it's a disease. Talking about addiction, everything is like, let's destigmatize whatever it is, so you can. But by the same token, it takes your, blame is passive. Mm-hmm. You want to move forward, you have to take responsibility. Yeah. And I'm all about mourning. I'm all about licking your wounds when you get kicked, taking some time to, plot your revenge. But you still got to get up, and get some work done, I will return. Exactly.
Word up. Peace. Thank you. So my next question, number 2, I always go to is relationships, broadly defined, professional, love, whatever, family. What's something that you have learned, or something that you do differently now that maybe you would have done in a different way as a younger man?
Just paying attention to my vows, I guess. One of the things I'm actually happy I came out to Oregon, because it's like way less temptation. You know what I mean? Coming from New York, coming from DC, coming from, there's, like one place where black women go. So, and it's, and I'm here in Salem, it's out. So it's like, it's a lot to do just to go out and flirt. So it's easier just to stay home. So just, I'm married only once, but I was with somebody a really long time, and to be honest, I was just, I was exercising my toxic masculinity. You know what I'm saying? So just being that, just recognizing, just, putting your head in the space to accept fidelity, son, nah, you gotta adjust to the world differently. You gotta not go certain places. You gotta not do certain things. You gotta not put yourself in certain situations that just, create temptation, you know. So yeah, just being more aware, you know, that, you know, I'm married. That means something.
Right. I think that's important. And as a person that's been in a bond relationship for a long time, but also simultaneously it skews a lot of sort of the concepts of our modern world, Western world, in terms of like, you know, we did not have our word is, to me, is more important than the function or the activity. But I acknowledge the value of sort of telling people, us two, we together. We're like a unit. We work together. You see us together. You like you know, I've committed certain things to this person. This person's committed certain things to me. But really, the value of giving your word about something and then like immediately not really keeping your word is sort of is a challenging thing. And I say this from a, you know, my older brother and my older sister are a month apart in age.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Just like take that over that, you know, so in terms of my own life growing up, you know, and talking to my mom and her, you know, remembering like, you know, before my dad passed, sort of the conversation around like, I'm like, wait, now that's my mom, that's my brother. I know he lives here all the time. She don't live here. How did this come together? You know what I'm saying? My uncle, you know, got cousins that, you know, ages are like, wait a minute. These two are really close. How did this happen? You know what I mean? And then, you know, in the general broader sense of like what goes on in communities where you go, you got like, you know, that kid over there looks a lot like y'all. You sure he ain't related to y'all? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we call him my cousin, but
I play cousin.
Yeah, like, you know, you like y'all might be brothers. I don't know if y'all cousins. You know what I'm saying? But like those concepts and how we manage them, you know, in terms of control. Is there? What would you say to sort of, because the thing I see these days is sort of this lean to go like, well, let's just accept that whatever it is you do is just what you do, and everybody should just, I guess, get over it or whatever. I don't know. I don't think I'm there. I mean, maybe anything like the whole like, oh, my side chick. There's like 1,000 memes and jokes and, you know, and sort of an iteration that if you was a man, you just gonna do this and there's nothing we can do. You know what I'm saying? We just all gotta accept it. And I don't know if that's true. I don't think that's absolutely a fact. Is there something that you would say if someone was asked, like, you know, I mean, you spoke to it a little bit there, but maybe give a little more detail on like what is that rooted in to you that we like kind of don't want to accept?
What do you mean? What part?
Well, okay, yeah, I went off the rails. Like the part where you would say, yeah, I'm not gonna go take any more applications, you know, from women, and then immediately leave and start taking applications. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, that's who you are as a person. That's who you are as a, you know, because it's, you know, yeah, I would love to keep screwing around, but that's me talking to my future wife at the time. You know, it's like, no, you know, let's not do that. You know, let's not. You know, she didn't want to talk about polyamory. She didn't want to talk about, you know, but she wasn't trying to hear none of that. You know, and it is just if you're thinking just as a person, taking it out of that. She's like, I don't want to do that. I want it to just be me and you know, in a committed relationship. And I agree to it. You know, that's an agreement. That's a contract. That's you know, so just taking it out of sex, marriage, love, whatever, you know, what's your word? You know, that's what it is. It's about your word. So, you know, that's, I mean, if you got a side chick, if you being righteous and they know, yeah, do your thing. You know what I mean? Far be it from me, for anybody, whoever does whatever you do to bring you, I'm all about that, you know? But if, you know, just, that's why I try to tell dudes, like, yo, just make sure everybody's on the same page, man. You still got to take care of your health. You still got to take care of people's, you know, mental well-being, you know, and don't waste people's time is money, you know, don't waste people's time. So it is more than just, it is who, you know, when to say that, it's not having a side chick, it's how you handle it. It's how you stand. It's how you know, you can do the right things for the wrong reasons and the wrong, or the wrong things for the right reasons, you know? So it's all of it. Who are you as a person? You know, what does your word mean? That's what it's about. It's, you know.
I can flex with that. It's, I think it's always a tension point You know what I mean? And even when when I say jokingly, I guess since I lived there, like I used to tell young guys to work with cats that were like at least 10 years younger than me, right? You know, even really a little bit more. And, you know, it was cool, and they would invite me to like they functions, or they'd have like a birthday party at the club or something. And I joke people, tell people like, yeah, man, at the midnight, I'm out of here. They'd be like, what you mean? I'm like, that's when the werewolves come out, man.
You know what I'm saying?
I got to bounce. I can't.
That's when the freaks come out.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I'll be here with y'all. I might, you know, what if I lose track of sort of.
Got liquor in my system. And the music pumping.
Like, alcohol out here.
Exactly.
And then, you know, it'd be a picture of Rajee making a poor choice. Like, not even necessarily going to no.
See, I told you he wasn't all right.
Like, like, you know, it'd be like a picture of a hand. Like, that's Justice's hand. He be out here acting like this. I mean, now we got him. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, if there was an insidious plot to do such things, but just sort of the idea of, you know, how well do you adapt the way you make your choices to what you said you're going to do.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's always...
Or what you expect of yourself. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So that's more than what you said. Like, what do you... You know, where's the debt to yourself? You know, like, where's the self? You know, people say you're selfish. Are you truly selfish? Are you truly looking out for the best interests of you? You know, if you can't keep your own word, you know what I'm saying? So that means you'll break word of yourself. You're not going to get up and go to the gym. You're not going to stop smoking. You're not going to, you know what I'm saying? Right. If you break your word to someone else, like, you know, if you can't be true to yourself, like, who could you be true to?
Yeah. I mean, that's an old Rajeeism. Like, you can lie to everybody else, but you know.
Yeah.
You know.
And how do you feel when you lie to yourself?
Yeah. Be out here writing like, I did not talk to her. She's not having my phone number. Be looking at your phone.
Exactly.
Like, when you coming through? And it's like, come on, dog. Let's just be honest about what's going on here.
Exactly.
Word up. Peace to the word to Big Bird, man. Thank you. Appreciate you. Third big point, and this is before we'll spin off into some other things. So for you right now, what's just something that's really important to you right now? Like, that, just on whatever level, like, what's something that's important to you and what you're doing with yourself?
Right now, me just trying to find out what it is the next thing. What's the next chapter? What's the next evolution? I've been doing some writing. Mm-hmm. You see, doing some home improvements. That was really trying to get some wax on, wax off, you know, some time to myself and try to concentrate. I was on the radio the other day on News Roundtable, so I'm trying to be more intellectualized in how I'm analyzing news and social media. Working on the media kit packet because I want to be maybe a public speaker or a trainer or something. So I guess just, you know, right now I'm really concentrated on, I'm at an age where I'm like, man, do I want to drop myself back into the system? Used to always say like, man, I don't want to be that, you know, that 60-something-year-old at McDonald's. You know what I mean? And it's, you know, the job is irrelevant, but just I didn't want to be like, you know, these cats who stay around too long because they just outlived their usefulness. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to find some ancillary usefulness outside of being somebody's employee. So I guess that's why I'm trying to be, you know, I have a lot of ideas. So it is, okay, let's start plugging away. You know, had some time to, you know, took care of some bills. So now I'm actually able to actually take some time and actually pull away from myself and, okay, I've got this body of work. I should be able to turn this into income streams to help secure my sanity. Because you know, do I really want to fix my brain to go back to working for somebody, you know?
Yeah, I could dig it. It's doing whatever. There's an energy these days around sometimes, sort of like be an entrepreneur, do your own thing. You know what I mean? Like, or that's always the logical step from whatever you are currently doing. And then there's also, I would say, sort of like the reality and balance of love. Like, do you have what you need for your basic sustenance, right? So then you can make that decision about what kind of work you're going to do depending on your skills and where you're situated in the world. Well, I would say, just for the record, you know, I think you can do a lot of stuff.
I appreciate that.
You know, you're a lawyer. You got, you know what I mean? You got a sharp mind. You can talk. You know, I mean, there's always going to be something that you can do in America. Definitely. You know what I mean? As I tell people, get a skilled traded profession, and being able to talk is a skill.
It's a skill.
I tell my kids this all the time because, you know, I've been in enough rooms where it's like, we need somebody to say nothing, and everybody's like this. They put their arms in their pockets. Like, I do not want to talk.
I hate public speaking. It drives me crazy there.
So I'd ask you, maybe this would pivot into the question about, you know, your experience as a as a lawyer and a background in the legal field, is there something that you could share just around, like what would we maybe a more valuable or some perspective on like how to use the law, as a tool to get what we need to get closer to what we need from this society? Is there anywhere that we could start a conversation about that?
Once again, going back to my mantra, I don't know that it's a conversation, because you can blame them that we don't know. It's their fault we don't know how to do that, because they, whatever, so then, okay, let's set that responsibility on us is, and I believe, like anything else, Google it. I mean, I use Google, but I'm sure there's other ask.com. Whatever the question is, put it in and look it up. Mm-hmm. Get information. I think that's the one thing I want to stress to people about the law. It is not, it's not medicine. Mm-hmm. You could not perform surgery on yourself. But yeah, you could try a case, if you had to, at least in small claims, just understanding, because there's a lot of stuff you can do by yourself now, divorces and, trust in the estates. And so that's what I want to get. I want people to understand, like, no, you can make it, look at it, read it, understand it, and try to, seize it for yourself. It's like anything else. And that's one of the things I think we're missing. People don't have patience to learn stuff they're not required to learn. You know what I mean? If it's not in school, people are not going to read a manual. You know what I mean? That's one of the reasons I do the home improvement things. It's like, okay, I had to go to Google, then I had to get the tool, then I actually have to sit and do it, and it's people don't want to do that. They don't want to engage in exercises that are repetitious. And I think that's why we have lawyers, because people don't want to read these dead statutes over and over again until you understand them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what our thing is. We trust. We have a representative government. So, I'm voting for this guy, and hopefully he's going to vote for the stuff that
he's going to do the thing I need.
I actually needed him to do. I needed him to do number 7. Out of the 20 things he said he's going to do. So hopefully he'll get to it. And that's what I mean. Understanding. Like right now, I just wrote an op-ed about this thing called malicious summoning. And, I myself am trying to figure out how this thing works. So can me as a regular citizen come up with an idea and put like a campaign together? First I tweeted it out, then I wrote an op-ed, now Nick King might get on the radio with it. And now I want to do a YouTube channel, then YouTube video, just something short about it. And then I actually want to write a legal argument and put it in a legal publication. So, I myself am trying to be like, okay, what can I actually do with this thing called the law? Mm-hmm. And it is just, what do you want to do with it? Okay, do you want to start a law? Okay, Google. How do you make a law in Oregon? No, you have a concept. Then it gets approved. Then you get petitions. And then you get 10,000 signatures, and then it gets put on the ballot. You know what I'm saying? That's what's happening. They're going to repeal the sanctuary law. It's because somebody didn't like it. And they got their signatures, and it's not. It's more about doing. If we could actually get people who are willing to read, research, put stuff together, organize, that's what it is. That's what we're lacking, and not just not knowing, just lack of activity, like the movement.
Well, I like what you shared there, because I think the roadmap of like, you have an idea, and that then you can start putting together the pieces to move the idea further.
Exactly.
Out to, so it gets to other people, and then it gets to one ring of understanding. Then it's like, okay, then there's this next ring, and then this other ring, and now there's enough rings that it can turn into this other place, or it can exist in a firmament in a different way.
Exactly. So from the public into the legislature, into exactly that. That is. So I'm. So before I give advice, let me see, like, can you actually do this? Before I start, oh no, one person can. Like, can I actually? let me test that.
Let me take a swing. Let me try to put an idea.
Let me try. Exactly.
And propagate.
Yeah.
That's me. I think some of that you touched on there around and it may seem like a jump, but the home improvement piece, because I've been fixing stuff in my house like the last 2 years. I just fixed a switch on my dryer again. Like I fixed something else on my dryer last year because I was like, man, I'm not buying another one of these, man. There's the internet though; it's all out there. If I look for it, and you watch the video, you're like, all right, man, let me look at that part.
No matter how many times you gotta watch it, running it back. No matter how many times.
I mean, like, I was trying to find a video with a dryer that was the same as mine because my dryer got the little thing in the front instead of up here. So I was like, that dryer don't look like my dryer. The instructions might not be the same. I need to keep finding.
Keep looking until it's exact. Exactly.
Yeah, but the thing that is out there now, and I think is almost sort of the challenge of our age, is because the information is actually more than likely available, but you got to do something.
You actually still got to hit some keys. You know what I'm saying?
So you could be sitting there like, man, this really need to change, and you pound it on the table. And it's like, what we gonna do? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I was waiting for y'all. I figured I'd come out here and say it, then y'all would have a plan. It's like,
no, I would just hop on the bandwagon and we'd be going somewhere.
It's something about that, but it's been my tone. I think this year, it gets ties to what you said. I've realized that if anything, if I have a really, really strong feeling that something needs to happen and it's not happening, it probably means I got to do it.
It probably means exactly. It's their fault it ain't happening, but if you want it to happen,
it's got to be me because I'm the one that's bringing it up.
Yeah.
Where did you when you did you or do you feel like you'll maybe move into like doing like education in the legal area or anything like that? Is that something that is on your radar?
Definitely. I think that's why you also, that is the multi-prong approach of this concept. I am also trying to write a legal paper about it. You know what I'm saying? That I could use to try to, show my credibility to a law school and actually teach to try to get a tenured position because that's like one of the things. And then also from law school, I had written a paper about using civil RICO against the police, and I got preempted, which means somebody else from someplace else wrote the same article and got it published like while mine was still in the edit phase. So one of my things I've always wanted to do was have something, a legitimate scholarly article published in a journal, because I say, yes, one of my dreams is to be a law professor. So that's definitely what I'm doing. I'm trying to, people love to see you do it, but it is the law. So to be a law professor, you do have to, it is networking. I could network a little harder. But yes, to answer your question, I would like to be a law professor.
Yeah. I like school. I like education apparatus. Like, I like the idea of the education apparatus to the most, for certain pieces. There's some stuff around, structurally and the way money is involved in it, and power and control stuff that gets a little dicey for me.
It always comes down to power and control. Who chose that textbook?
But the reality that, and I think it's an area that makes me upset sometimes as it pertains to our community, that we do have to have a place, a store of our knowledge of how we see the world, and a vehicle that then, even people that don't know you can go contact. I heard Rice wrote a paper about this. I can go get the paper, I can read the paper, I can talk to somebody else who maybe is more schooled in that information, and they can give me their feedback on the paper, and then I can work with the idea, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, even if I don't know it, Rice. That's an important thing in terms of, protecting your world perspective. You know what I mean? Sort of like the challenge even to redirect in our society. I think sometimes the inertia of the amount of information and data that people who think a certain way can just go right back to that. Well, actually, I just read the same paper from so-and-so, and it seems like the information is irrefutable, so I'm just going to keep thinking this way. And it's like, so I think, I don't know, it would be nice to find a way to modernize that concept where more people could get excited and get engaged with because there's a lot of knowledge base out there that you can get to for free, but it hasn't. I don't think anybody's cracked the code on making it fun. And I don't know if it has to be fun, but at least the framing around it. You know what I mean? Where it doesn't seem so punitive. If you don't understand, where it's people, I don't understand, so therefore I'm not even gonna try. You know what I mean? And I think, I don't know, I'm trying to find the words to how do we turn that around? How do we make you, go nah, man, it's cool if you don't read. If you read the paper the first 2 times, just like that YouTube video fixing the dryer, then you didn't get it, so you had to watch it 6 times or 8. That's okay. You have to read this article 5 times, 6 times, and get a highlighter and call a friend. That's all right. That's normal. That's part of knowledge. I don't know how to, but I think that we would be moving in a different place if we can get that.
You played football? You played football, didn't you, Jess?
I played a lot of pickup football before I was injured.
Okay.
And then I was going to play football, and I got a job in high school. But I understand football.
I mean, did you play any high school sport?
I was injured the whole
time. But I guess, yeah, my point is, you know, how many footballs did you drop before you finally caught one?
Yeah.
You know, how many shots did you miss before you finally, you know, and was that fun? You know, was constantly dropping that football fun? You know, was constantly getting up every time you got knocked down fun? You know, it's Tony Soprano. It was one of the Soprano episodes. Remember, he was messing around with the Russian maid. She had the one leg. And just after they were fooling around, and yeah, you know, she says to him, she's like, you know, you Americans, y'all are the only ones who expect to be happy. You know, and that's what I probably, you know, what do you mean educate? Fun, it's got to be fun. Like, no, you got to learn to do some stuff that's not fun. Like, that's, you know, it's so, this new generation is like, no, you sit down and you do it till you're finished. Like, that's discipline. I can't, and that's, you know, all of us, that's why kids do sports, you know, that's fun. And what's so interesting is, I can come out to the park and tell you your jump shot is garbage. Yo, son, your crossover is whack, done. But I can't be like, yo, you don't know how to do, you don't know what that says? Like, yo, you're straight out whack, dog. What do you mean, 2 + 2? 4, done, 4, B, 4. I can insult your jump shot, but I can't insult your math skills. I can motivate you with negative reinforcement on a football field, but I gotta pat you on the head in the classroom where it's actually like, yeah, no, this you actually need to know to do. Yeah. You need to give me grass drills. You need to give me push-ups. I actually need you to know how to, you know, verb, noun, subject, period. Like, that's what but that's fun, playing football, giving up your body. Yeah, being injured, concussions. That's
sore hips, sore knees.
Sore knees. I mean,
I broke my ankle, but I'm going to butter it up. It'll be fine.
You know, people can't take your education, but sports will take your body. You know, and it's like, no, it's not. And I want to know, my grandmother, everybody, nobody never led me to believe education is fun. It's something you had to do, or you're going to end up in a cage, or you're going to end up dead, or it wasn't, something that we were beaten to keep us from doing. Yeah, that's not going to be fun. You know? So we need to get away. No, it's not. It's something that's necessary. It's health, you know, like knowing your status. Like, that's not fun, but it's
it is a
necessity. It is a life.
You gotta be able to speak that language. You gotta be able to tap into, like, you know, what is this? You know, I think it's a phrase. It's learn how to swallow bitterness. Or something like that. Like, you know, like that you've achieved a level of maturity where you can go, I gotta eat this nasty thing that I don't. Why are you sitting there drinking that nasty water? Because this is a part of the work.
This is the part of the work I gotta do. Exactly. I mean, I had to get a colonoscopy and I had to drink something. Like, I can say no, but they're like, no, you're gonna have to come back. You know what I mean? And but I need to make sure I'm good. Like, that's not fun. And that's what I mean. We gotta stop. Life is not a party, dog. Life is about suffering. You know, that's what that book says. It's like, you know, whatever decision you make, there's going to be consequences. There is no formula to happiness. You know, so it's like, what do you know, so you're going to center your life around trying to be happy? You know, you're going to center your life around what are you willing to sacrifice for? And that's what I mean. Education, it's a sacrifice. It's getting up every day, going to school, doing homework over and over. You know, it's a sacrifice. So are you willing to sacrifice, you know? Now are you willing to have fun? You know, let's, you know, Blue's Clues or something. You know what I'm saying?
We definitely need to have like that you know, you have some purpose and direction, and then, you know, whatever is par for the course for the purpose and direction, you gotta have to field that. And then if at some point you decide that it's not worth it anymore, then that's cool.
That's cool.
Make a pivot. Or not.
You know, but live by that decision. You know what I mean? That's always, once again, you can blame them for making school hard. You know, but it's going to be your responsibility to get through life without it.
Yeah. Well, I have a very unpopular opinion that, to me, most of school ain't that hard.
What?
I just don't think. I think school is different. I think school is hard depending on how you were prepped to get there. You know what I mean? Like, but I've been in enough schools where I'm like, this ain't that hard. There's something else going on here, right? That's hard. That's like the material's not hard. The
socialization,
yeah.
And that's what I try to. That's what it is, and I try to tell the dudes who don't go to school and we're in the military or in jail because like you didn't have a regimen discipline infusing program, and you can call it. That's where they create sheep, you know. And I don't want to. I've had a job my whole life. I went to school, you know, but that's what I was taught from my grandparents, you know. Because you got to remember, you know, we were killed for that at one time. So it is the thing that puts you into the system.
Yeah. Right.
You know, you go to college not to get a job, to get socialized, to meet people, to test your theories, learn how to speak properly, to know how to hold a teacup. You know, that's what people laugh at that, you know. And you're right, the bar is very low. You know, so it's a shame that so many people drop out.
Yeah. But I think and I would say this, you know, counter to my own thing. I know that part of that is when you can't feel at peace in the space, it feels like the most difficult thing in the universe.
Totally.
You know what I mean? But once you break through, you go, oh, I realized all I had to do was just do this, and it would have been okay.
No, I think what you're saying.
And also, I guess the other challenging part about it is the person who could be your tormentor may not be as like wise and as strategically tormenting you as you think they are. They're actually sort of incompetent, but they're playing out the script. You're like, man, she must really be trying to destroy me. And it's like, no, he is actually just bad at his job.
That's kind of what they do.
And meanwhile, you're having this very like tortured experience. Like he's trying to undermine my confidence, and it's like he's not even thinking that far advanced. He's trying to
undermine all of y'all. Not just you. You're not the only one. You're not the only one. No, and and that's what I mean. I still have to remember a lot of the junk that comes out of my mouth is from my age. You know, because it is. You know, and I went to school in the 70s and the 80s. You know, it was no. You know, they weren't questioning the ACTs and those California aptitude tests. So it was a totally different. You know, and I went to a private school for a year, and then, you know, I went to Bayside High School, where my father moved me to one of the better, you know, we moved there because it's like one of the best school districts in the city. So, yeah, you know, it's so interesting. I have to go back and remember, you know, a lot of the stuff I said is rooted in privilege. You know, my parents did break up, but I ended up with my father, you know, and he was able to buy a house out in Queens. You know, so I went to 158. I've always been around diverse kids, but diverse kids who own homes, you know, so Asians, Armenians, Russians, you know, and we had the little race fights and, you know, there was a block behind the junior high school, and it was like, yeah, the blacks was on this side, the whites was on this side, but the blacks own houses, you know what I mean? So it was almost like West Side Story, you know, and then I went to Bayside, and, you know, so I'm coming from almost an idyllic, you know, and I really have to understand, like, yeah, we didn't have gangs, we didn't have, you know, there was crack and violence, but it was like at Edison or Jackson. It wasn't at Bayside, you know. You know.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a whole. I mean, and I tell this people my own story in terms of growing up, where I grew up in Willingboro for the most part, is sort of the various ways that people, especially if you was a baby, you know, high school, if you was in high school, middle school, high school in the 80s, and whatever side of when crack really did what it did, wherever your folks sort of placed you in your system to avoid some of the worst repercussions that were happening elsewhere. Have a ripple effect. I think that at some point, you know, when we start generating more stories and research and other things that are generated out of people who moved through that time, we will look at it differently. We'll see, like, you know, some of the, like, I know I can speak to my own really, like, you know, I remember I was in a school where it was a bunch of black kids, families that either owned homes or rented their homes that knew of or were, you know, I'm an arm's reach from, there's a crack house next to my house, but I don't live there no more. I go visit grandma who still lives over there, or I visit these other people in my family who still live next to that crack house, but I don't live there no more. You know what I mean? And so then how does that affect the way you see the world? How does it affect who you see, how you see them, see yourself? You know, there's a whole lot there that I think we'll get. As this generation starts talking more, we'll get more insight into that time.
Brings a story. This is Bayside, Queens. You can look it up. You ever remember the White Shadow? Is that before your time?
No, I remember the White Shadow.
He was from Bayside, Queens. They shot a scene. We were out on Bell Boulevard when they shot the scene when he was out there. So this is what you're talking about where I grew up. But during that crack time, there was a house a few blocks from us. A girl got executed. Butchie and her girlfriend. And his girlfriend ran up in his house and gunned him down. Her father was a policeman. Lived less than a mile from that house. You know what I'm saying? The oldest son ended up on heroin, on cocaine, a really bad addiction. And the mother's a nurse. And this is Bayside on their house. So it is, telling that story. It's like, man, it was idyllic, Bayside, but somehow, my childhood friend died of a cocaine overdose. This dude was like, went to podiatry school, you know what I'm saying? Played football in a private school up in upstate somewhere. So definitely it was, we're separated where you were right in the middle of it. Like I was graduating and moving into college as it was coming in. So I was seeing it from the party end, you were seeing it from like, whoa.
Right. I was at it from the
because
right before you get to middle school and like, oh, we don't go over to that cousin's house no more because for whatever reason
we don't go down that block no more.
Unspoken reason we don't go down this street and this street no more.
Yo, son, take your wallet with you.
Lock your doors. Don't leave any. As I tell my kids now, don't leave anything visible in the seat.
In the seat.
You know what I'm saying? And they look at me like, why? I'm like, cuz I grew up, that was like if there was anything that looked like valuable,
we was losing the window.
Busting your window.
They wouldn't even check the door.
Yeah, what is this? Oh man, this ain't worth nothing.
And then tear up your seats. You didn't have nothing.
Busting up their day, like wasting their time. You know what I mean? And even the so I think that those that perspective is really I think it's something that is it means something to our generation and kind of like the more we get to grapple with the effects of that from public policy to the political activity, because I think that divide is still with us and it still affects sort of the way we're trying to get things done right now.
I mean, the chemical itself, I think. I'm going to sound like this is what you were saying about the tangent. Like, no, I think chemically, I think that's why we have these kids ADHD and AD, the attention deficit. And because remember, crack babies, they didn't bond, they couldn't sit still, they were constantly in anguish, and not till, when I was a kid, everybody had that one in his class that just, teacher sits him in the back and, but now it seems it's a very prevalent thing. And I think we may be seeing, some chemical residual affecting these kids, just like along with the opioid, you're seeing it across the board. Just, autism, it's that, kids who are hitting the spectrum. And it's like, is it that, or is it the measles? Or is it the vaccinations? That's what it was.
There's a lot of possible.
There's a lot, yes, but, they were talking, it's the only drug that, broke the bond between mother and daughter. Like, does it really? I mean, remember years ago, PCP, talking about people having flashbacks, it stayed in your system. Yeah, so.
Yeah, you can go back and have a return to a previous event. It's too much. Word up. Well, thank you. That was heavy duty. We went down. It was a nice road, though. I like that.
Cool.
So I'm gonna pivot. I'm gonna give us a pivot.
Okay.
So we're at the time where we could move towards, maybe lightening the load a little bit.
Okay.
We can talk a little movies, music, or books before we get ready to exit. Do you have a preference?
No, doesn't matter.
All right, man. So, I always think that. Is there a movie or a show, something that if you, not that I turn on much and the TV's already working, but let's just say, for the purpose of this conversation, you turn on TV and this is on, that even if you was planning to do something else, you might sit down and go ahead and watch the rest of this here movie. The movie that falls in that lane for you.
Believe it or not, anything by Clint Eastwood, I'll sit and watch from wherever I pick it up. So I love Clint Eastwood movies. He's my, Yeah, I don't know where I got him from. I don't know why, but no, I've always loved Clint Eastwood. So yeah, any of his stuff, his westerns.
So like I said, like the Outlaw Josie Wells is the one that always sticks with me.
Please, I'll watch Tightrope. I'll watch Sudden Impact. I'll watch Honky Tonk Man. I'll watch Every Which Way But Loose. So, yeah, seriously.
That's one with the orangutan.
Yeah,
there's 2 of those or 3 of them. Man.
Every Which Way You Can. Any which way but loose. Remember the song?
We live in a society where the man that made the movie with 3 orangutans had the nerve to be lecturing people about with empty chairs and all.
You know what I'm saying?
I guess that's the beauty of the breadth of the human experience.
And that's what I'm trying to tell people. We take stuff way too seriously. These cats out here living their own reality without flinching. You know? Seriously.
Right.
So.
Because he probably too old now to make another Every Which Way, but something else.
Watch your mouth to God's ear. You know, it'll be his long lost son coming back.
Clint Eastwood Jr. is
exactly.
You know what I mean? Back with the orangutans.
You know what I'm saying?
Is because for me, my own stress management thing is sometimes is to have stuff that's like, I just do this because it's fun and it makes me smile for a little bit, or it's something entertaining in it, so, movies is one of those things sometimes. Although I have to be honest with myself, I realize I don't watch as many movies as I think I do. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? A little bit of the video games, conquering space and stuff like that. Is there any particular interest that you feel like, I should do more of that, and I just don't be making it, make enough time for it in terms of either, music, movies, books, anything of that nature?
I got to get back to working out. I was, I work at a boxing gym downtown. There's also one of these like boxing cardio places, and I had given it up for a little while. I'm gonna get back into that. There's also a nonprofit gym downtown, and it's interesting. It's set up like a barbershop almost. It's a one wide space, but in the corner is a kickboxer. The next to him is jujitsu, and the next to him is a regular boxer. So it's like, they share the main space, but then have their own little cubbies and have their classes at different times. So I actually want to check that out because I like karate. I like MMA. I don't want to sound like Portland. Hey, I'm into that MMA stuff. Like this combat sports. So boxing, jujitsu, kickboxing. So I actually want to get back into that. Actually, I loved just the movement. I love the concentration of it. I love the contact of it. I love getting hit. I loved swinging, punching. So I want to get back to that. I definitely want to get more of that.
Oh no, I do capoeira right now, and I used to do kung fu I guess I would say I would still do kung fu if I could do kung fu with the people I used to do kung fu with, but I just don't have access to them right now. But I'm a big believer in one, I don't think it's necessarily healthy to go pick a fight to get in a fight, but I think it's good to mix it up with somebody or to spar with someone. And when you spar with somebody who really I am really tried to hit you, I'm your friend, I love you. I'm really gonna try to punch you in the chest right now. I think it is a grounding, at least for me, around violence and physical and finding sort of some peace. You know what I'm saying? With you could take a punch and you can get back up.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And I think that's and that's. Yeah, see, now this is just to describe the silent moments. I can see myself taking the turn. I have to catch it. No, don't want this out there. Don't want it out there. But it is. I just think, because we come from another time where it was, you said something I didn't like. I'm going to come see you. And it's going, me and you.
We're going to have a fist fight.
I'm going to have my people. They're going to square, clear us the space. And we're going to settle it. It's and it's, and, nobody was coming back with a gun. You didn't have to worry about somebody running up and throwing Drano in your face. It's just, this fear creates these, this terror. So you have these really super violent responses to just fear. I'm so afraid of you that I'm just going to spray up the whole front of your yard because I don't want to stop and look at you and make sure, so nobody wants to stand up and put their hands up and You know, and I feel that's what's missing. People just, and then, oh, we want to talk about it. And you know, and it's, sometimes you said something I didn't like. We need to square up. And once again, that's coming back to, you know, your word as your bond. Like, what is, you know, to me, they're deeply tied, that you're not willing to, you know, take a stand that will force you to put yourself at consequence for something deeper. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? What do you know?
There could be, something could be lost personally from you violating this sensibility between us.
Exactly.
And I think the acceptance of the idea that, like, we may not understand that us scrapping it out is not the best outcome until we start scrapping it out and realize this is not that serious. You know what? Mm-hmm. All right, we wrestled and tussled for 35 seconds, 45 seconds. All right, man, like, it's whatever. Somebody say, you know, you got over, or somebody, you know, basically whatever, it's over now. Mm-hmm. We're going to walk away and we're going to move on. Exactly. And I think that there's a lost value there. And I think in terms of, like, the training side of things and then martial art, I think, you know, when you know, learning to, you know, okay, there's a crossover effect to, can you stand in the lane of something that's coming at you and realize, oh wait, I can sidestep. Mm-hmm. I can put this hand up like this.
I have options.
Yeah, like, just because there's threat does not mean
strike.
Yeah, I have no options but either, like,
to respond or
respond in some you know, outsized way. I think.
But you have to experience it to understand it, and people don't. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to kill you to get punched in the face. You know, it's not gonna, but it will. You know, to get a gun. You know what I mean? It's that's what martial arts teaches you as well. You know, how to handle victory, just like you need to handle defeat. Like, you need to, when you put a man down, you still need to walk away with dignity. Just like if you the one dusting yourself off. And we're not. There's dignity in both. You know, there's dignity in standing strong and honorable. The outcome is irrelevant. You know what I'm saying? You've seen fights where, the dudes who've lost have gotten cheered because it's, you know, did you come there ready to do what you came there ready to do? And I think if we had more of that, that's, I can take a loss. You know, once again, it goes back to, your jump shot's crap, this, that. You know what I mean? No, let's talk about the feelings. And sometimes you need to, you know, and it's not a boy thing. You know, I don't want to stress it's a masculinity thing. Sometimes everybody, you know, you took the Fight Club turn, but isn't that what he says? Like, how much do you know about yourself if you've never been in a fight? What do you, and that's the other thing. People, if you've never been in a fight, maybe I can see that's why you can't keep your word to yourself. Because yourself is not sufficient to protect yourself. You know what I mean? So, you know, if you with your man, if we get in beef, he just gonna run and nothing's gonna happen. You're not gonna really trust him. So yourself, like, I know I can get in some beef where I'm not gonna be able to handle myself. So, you know, it causes you to compromise yourself.
Right. You're like, wait a minute, let me slow down this train. You know, we're getting way too angry right now.
You know what I mean?
I think I may have disrespected you. Let me pull back. Let me pull back. You know what I mean?
And that catch yourself. But then you got these dudes who don't want to get loud, get disrespected, something happens. Oh, I want to shoot up the club. I'm gonna
go in. I'm come back and
express my feelings.
Let y'all know how I feel.
You know, so it is like we can't accept honor in losing. Like, we're not.
And I think I've always, and I still enjoy, like, when I spar with somebody or even just train with somebody. You know, you're doing a technique where somebody's gonna, like, put you on the ground or something. It's a good spot. Like, man, fall down on the ground. Like let's do this 4 or 5 times. All right, we're gonna do this for like 20 minutes of falling over, and I'm gonna get up, and I'm gonna fall again, and I'm gonna get up, and then after a while you realize, okay, I can fall over, and then I will get up. You know what I mean? And you also, I think there's an importance and something that I'm always concerned. I mean, even what I do for a living in terms of working with young men. On supervision and other stuff is getting guys to understand, like, your adversary from a long kind of human culture perspective, those who don't sort of respect the kind of the personhood of their adversary tend to cause a lot of wanton destruction for everybody. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because you just like, she doesn't matter at all, and it's
You
like
have no value for human life.
right,
Period.
and you know that's not true. Like some part of your DNA is like that's not true. You know what I mean? So then you have to like overload with other stuff to not think about that, and trying to say like no, like if whatever happened between y'all, y'all gonna be scrapping. Okay, I mean I can't make that decision for you, but I also can't co-sign that you can that anything can happen and we're all just supposed to be like, well, those two aren't getting along, so they had to shoot up the park, or they had to have a fight at the Chappelle show, or they had, I mean, like it's like we all ain't got to be a party to y'all's disagreement, and it's not fair
exactly
for you to ask us to. So where's the big word, man? So I think we're close to the tap out point. Is there anything that I guess you just want to add on for the good of the universe, good of the order for
No, I really
plane?
appreciate the opportunity to do this. I really think it's a deep concept to actually create a form of chronicling, because everybody's talking about, how do we handle the formula down to the next generation, so I really think this is a good idea. And it is, like I was saying, you're creating a database. So like, yeah, son, black man, you don't know how to be a man? Google it. Ask an old head.
Yeah, there's audio.
There's audio.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? You can put it in your headphones, do it while you're driving,
right.
Biking, scootering now. Is it scooting or scootering?
I refuse to find out. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not riding one. So
Okay.
at least maybe not. I might get talked into it, but we'll see.
See, black man, you can't be. No,
I'm trying to expand my horizons.
Exactly. They're gonna be all on them scooters.
Right,
all
that's
over
why I
them.
didn't want to be too strident, as they say, like because you might catch me riding down
In the scooty lane that they gonna add in like 2 years.
I saw Rajee going down there on the
Scooty lane with a little POIC.
Straight up. So that I guess I would say before I let's go. One thing also I've learned being just getting this age is that you will contradict something that 20-year-old you said you would never. I will never. Then you'd be
Always.
like, I'm out here.
There it is.
20-year-old me can go sit on the tack. It's my time now. So
There it is.
word up. Well, Rice, thank you, man. I appreciate
Thank you.
This has been the As Your Old Head podcast with Justice Rajee. Peace.